Hello, Wildcats. Happy Wednesday. Today I'm going to read a book called Chester's Way by Kevin Henkes. We're going to do a special skill with this one, and it's called Compare and Contrast. You've probably done it in your classroom. Compare means to see how they are the same, and contrast is to see how they are different. So normally we would do that with two different stories, right? We look at the stories and see how they're the same and how they're different. We're going to do that with characters today. So let's get started. This book is called Chester's Way. There's not really any end pages in this one. I usually show you end pages, and it's blank today. Chester had his own way of doing things. Hello, my name is Chester. I like croquet and peanut butter and making my bed. He always cut his sandwiches diagonally. Remember our diagonal line? Not horizontal, not vertical, but diagonal. He always got out of bed on the same side. And he never left the house without double knotting his shoes. Very sensible. Chester always had the same thing for breakfast, toast with jam and peanut butter. And he always carried a miniature first aid kit in his back pocket, just in case. You definitely have a mind of your own, said Chester's mother. That's one way to put it, said Chester's father. Chester's best friend, Wilson, was exactly the same way. That's why they were best friends. Chester wouldn't play baseball unless Wilson played, and they never swung at the first pitch or slid head first. Wilson wouldn't ride his bike unless Chester wanted to, and they always used hand signals. If Chester was hungry, Wilson was hungry too, but they rarely ate between meals. Some days I can't tell those two apart, said Wilson's mother. Me either, said Wilson's father. Chester and Wilson, Wilson and Chester, that's just the way it was. Sounds like they get along well. They loved to go on picnics. Once, when Wilson accidentally swallowed a watermelon seed and cried because he was afraid that a watermelon plant would grow inside him, Chester swallowed one too. Don't worry, said Chester. Now if you grow a watermelon plant, I'll grow one too. That's some good solidarity. It means doing the things together. Chester duplicated his Christmas list every year and gave a copy to Wilson because they always wanted the same things anyway. For Halloween, they always dressed as things that went together, like salt and pepper shakers, two mittens on a string, or ham and eggs. They really are two peas in a pod, said Chester's mother. Looks like it, said Chester's father. They like to do things together. In spring, Chester and Wilson shared the same umbrella. In winter, they never threw snowballs at each other. In fall, they raked leaves together, and in summer, they reminded each other to wear sunscreen so they wouldn't burn. Chester and Wilson. Wilson and Chester. That's the way it was. And then Lily moved into the neighborhood. Maybe you recognize her from Lily's Purple Plastic Purse. It's a different book about her. Lily had her own way of doing things. I'm Lily, I'm the queen, I like everything. That's a little different than them. She wore band-aids all over her arms and legs to look brave. She talked backwards to herself sometimes so no one would know what she was saying. Yellow. That means I am Lily. Backward. And she never left the house without one of her nifty disguises. Lily waved at the cars that passed by, even if she didn't know who was in them. And she always carried a loaded squirt gun in her back pocket, just in case. She definitely has a mind of her own, said Chester. That's one way to put it, said Wilson. She seems very different from them. When Lily asked Chester and Wilson to play, they said they were busy. When she called them up on the phone, they disguised their voices and said they weren't home. Oh, no, the Chester and Wilson aren't here. No, you got the wrong number. If Lily was walking on one side of the street, Chester and Wilson crossed to the other and hid. They're not being very friendly. She's something else, said Chester. Looks like it, said Wilson. One day, while Chester and Wilson were practicing their hand signals, Some older boys rode by, popping wheelies. They circled Chester and Wilson and yelled personal remarks. Ha ha. Chester and Wilson didn't know what to do. Just when they were about to give up hope, a fierce-looking cat with horrible fangs jumped out of the bushes and frightened the older boys away. And wait, are you who I think you are? Chester asked the cat. Of course, the cat replied. Thank you, Lily, said Chester. You're welcome, Chester, said Lily. Thank you, Lily, said Wilson. You're welcome, Wilson, said Lily. I'm glad you were wearing a disguise, said Chester. And I'm glad you had your squirt gun, said Wilson. I always do, said Lily. Just in case. So he has a first aid kit just in case. She has a water squirt gun. Afterward, Chester invited Lily over for lunch. You have a muscle mouse cup, said Lily. Of course, said Chester. I do too, said Lily. Same here, said Wilson. So that's something they have in common. Chester and Wilson cut their sandwiches diagonally. Lily asked Chester's mother if she could have cookie cutters, and she made stars and flowers and bells. That's neat, said Chester. Wow, said Wilson. So they do that differently. They seem to like it, though, and to see what's different about each other. That night, Lily invited Chester and Wilson to sleep over. You have a nightlight, said Chester. Of course, said Lily. I do too, said Chester. Same here, said Wilson. Chester and Wilson wanted toast with jam and peanut butter for breakfast the next morning. Boring, said Lily. Try this instead. This is good, said Chester. Wow, said Wilson. After that, Lily asked Chester and Wilson to play, and they said yes. And when she called them up on the phone, they had pleasant conversations. That means nice conversations. And if Lily was walking on one side of the street, Chester and Wilson waved and ran to catch up with her. Chester and Wilson taught Lily hand signals, and she taught them how to pop wheelies. Lily taught Chester and Wilson how to talk backward, and they taught her how to double knot her shoes. If you double knot your shoes, you don't have to tie them again so soon. That's a good idea. Some days, I can't tell those three apart, said Lily's mother. Me either, said Lily's father. Chester and Wilson and Lily. Lily and Wilson and Chester. That's the way it was. For Halloween, they dressed as the three blind mice. For Christmas, Lily gave Chester and Wilson nifty disguises, and they gave her a box of multicolored shoelaces extra long for double knotting. They loved to go on picnics. When Chester and Wilson told Lily about how they each had swallowed a watermelon seed once, Lily swallowed 3 of them. I'll grow a watermelon plant for each of us, she said. In spring, Chester and Wilson and Lily shared the same umbrella. In winter, they never threw snowballs at each other. In fall, they raked leaves together, and in summer, they reminded each other to wear sunscreen so they wouldn't burn. Chester and Wilson and Lily. Lily and Wilson and Chester. That's the way it was. And then Victor moved into the neighborhood. They don't tell us what happens there, but I think we can guess. So let's think about it. Lily was very different from Chester and Wilson, but they had some things in common. So let's make a quick Venn diagram. So that helps us compare and contrast the characters. So this is a Venn diagram. When you have a circle that holds all the things about one thing and everything you know about another one, and you can compare what's the same, where they overlap, that they both have it, or you can contrast what is different. So let's think real quick. What did they do that was the same? I noticed that they had a muscle mouse cup. I'm going to draw it because some of my friends don't read yet. So they have a muscle mouse cup. They all had one of those. They had a nightlight. My nightlight's kind of sad. We got a muscle mouse cup and a nightlight. Was there anything else? Let's think. Oh, they all like to go on picnics. I'm going to write the word picnic. P-I-C-N-I-C. There's the word picnic. All right, let's think about what's different. They each had something just in case. We're talking about Chester and Lily. I'm going to write her name on the other side. Well, Lily had a squirt gun, right? I'm not going to be very good at this. So that's her squirt gun. Lily had a squirt gun. And he had, a first aid kit. That's right. So I'm going to make a box. And it's going to say first aid. There's his first aid kit. So they each had something just in case, but it was different. It wasn't the same thing. Let's see. Oh, in the mornings, Chester liked to eat his toast, right? And it had peanut butter and jam on it. And she had something different. She had toast that looked like a smiley face. Let's see. I'm gonna make it a strawberry out for a nose. So that's not a very good one, but she had a smiley face toast. There were many other things that were the same and different about those friends. But I think that can get us started. So we could compare them, see what was the same, and we could contrast and see what was different about those friends. So now I've got a challenge for you. I want you to grab a piece of paper or a whiteboard. I'm going to use my whiteboard. And I'm going to make 2 big circles at the edges overlap. So I make one big circle like that. And then I make another big circle like that. And I'm going to put me under one of the circles. And I'm going to either write brother or sister under the other circle. I'm going to write sister because I hang out with my sister quite a bit. Or you could put your friend, or you could put your mom or dad. Somebody that you have to hang out with right now. I have to hang out with my sister, so I'm going to compare and contrast the things we like to do. I like to read, and my sister likes to read too, so I'm going to put that in the middle. Or I'm going to write read, or you could draw a book. Maybe my sister likes to play board games. I don't really like to do board games. So I'm going to write game on her side. Or you could draw the box or the game. Okay? There's game for my sister. But I like to crochet. That means make things with a special knitting needle and a whole bunch of yarn. It's all wound up in a ball. So that's not a very good drawing, but I like to crochet. So that's one thing I like to do. What else? We both like to hike. That means go for big walks out in nature. So I'm going to write the word hike. Bossy E with the I makes the I say I, and a K, k, hike. What else do you and your family like to do? Why don't you make a compare and contrast set of circles, our Venn diagram, and you can find things that you like to do together, or things that you might want to do separately when you have alone time while school is out. I hope that helps you figure out some things you like to do with either your brothers and sisters or your parents, and I hope you enjoyed today's story. Talk to you soon.